everyone is wrong about God. In The Future of Religion, the atheist pragmatist, my favorite pragmatist, Richard Rorty, and the Catholic, somewhat post structuralist Gianni Vatimo sketch out a godless, anti essentialist religion without metaphysics. They claim that Nietzsche's famous death of God, meaning the secularization of culture, killed the idea of objective truth. Traditional conceptions of the essentialist, metaphysical Christian God perished along with truth. Vatimo says that hermeneutics, or basically biblical interpretation, changed our reality. Hermeneutics just means interpretation, basically. It can apply to other texts, but it's often associated with the Bible. Hermeneutics historicized philosophy, which destroyed the distinction between so called natural and human sciences. This makes hermeneutics the highlight of historical existence in the age of the end of metaphysics. I like that. In the age of the end of metaphysics. Beautiful. Remember, Rorty and Vatimo are arguing that the death of God killed metaphysics. Hermeneutics is, in a way, what ended metaphysics, to them at least. It's at least one of the major contributing factors, anyway. It Interpretation arguably ended metaphysics and killed God. Interpretation historicized philosophy, which makes it so crucial because historicizing philosophy eradicated God and metaphysics. Hermeneutics proves that there are no facts, only interpretations, unquote, is itself an interpretation. That's how hermeneutics destroyed both relativism and truth, since an interpretation about truth being false is just as much an objective truth statement as saying that God objectively exists. And if you're saying that you say that objectively, then you're admitting that your opinion is subjective and you're not objectively correct anyway. So to Vatimo, Christianity helped us realize that everything is an interpretation, including interpretations. We also learned from Christianity, as impossible as it sounds to some people, that no one's God is the only correct one. God doesn't need to be metaphysical, and truth doesn't fucking matter. Oh no, fucking truth warriors like Jordan Peterson always talking about truth. It doesn't fucking matter in some sense. It matters in the senses they don't think it matters. Anyway, so not in terms so and truth doesn't fucking matter in terms of God anyway. It does it in other things. So truth doesn't fucking matter in terms of God. Does God exist or not? Doesn't fucking matter. So Rorty agrees with this claim about truth even more so than Fatima does. Christianity introduced the world to the principle of inferiority, as he calls it. This dissolved our experience of reality into nothing but paying attention and interpreting messages. The hermeneutics of philosophy freed religion from metaphysics at the moment when Nietzsche identified Christ's crucifixion with the death of God. Anyone who believes in the salvation of Jesus' sacrifice today does so because they read it in the Gospels. No one believes that Jesus died for our sins because we have objective scientific proof of the historical resurrection. There are a few rationalist evangelical Christians out there who think that maybe, but they're dumb in terms of that. They do exist. They're obviously wrong. As Rorty and Vatimo are explaining, most Christians believe in Jesus being crucified and coming back to life as a zombie simply because they read about it in the Gospels. And they're not saying there's anything wrong with believing that. They're saying believe it if you want to, and whether it's true or not doesn't matter. You don't need to believe it based on evidence based. Believe it based on whatever you fucking want to, but don't be dishonest about it. So anyway, so as Rorty and Vitima are explaining, if you believe in Jesus being crucified and coming back to life as a zombie, no one believes that simply because they read it in the Gospels, or they read it in the Gospels, not because they think it's objectively scientifically true, or more likely in today's world anyway, they heard it in church, or actually. Like, even more likely today, unless we're talking about older people, if we're talking about Christian kids, for example, maybe some rando on TikTok told them and they're just believing that. But Vidimo and Rorty would say that there doesn't need to be any proof of Jesus' resurrection to believe in it. I like that. I don't believe in any God, but militant atheists like Sam Harris are annoying dickheads. Like Rorty in particular, I'm an indifferent atheist. I don't fucking care what people believe about God and metaphysics. I just find it interesting. Anyway, Rorty and Vatimo talk about Nietzsche's death of God killing truth, which opened the door for religion without God or metaphysics. Hermeneutics, or interpretation, historicized philosophy and knocked down the distinction between natural and human sciences. Hermeneutics is the highlight of historical existence in the age of the end of metaphysics because it is what caused the end of metaphysics. Hermeneutics arguably proved that everything is an interpretation, which is how it destroyed both truth and relativism. It shows us that God, metaphysics, and truth do not necessarily objectively exist, but they don't have to. However, it also shows that we can't correctly say that God, truth, and metaphysics objectively do not exist. Claiming that something objectively does not exist is just as dogmatic as claiming that something objectively does exist. They're both interpretations. Christianity actually helped us discover that everything is an interpretation, including the argument that everything is an interpretation. To Vatimo and Rorty, this doesn't fucking matter. Anyone can choose to believe in their own version of God, metaphysics, and truth, or lack thereof. But due to the death of God in metaphysics, basically no one believes in Jesus' sacrificial execution as having literally objectively occurred based on scientific evidence. I think the most important point that Rorty and Vatimo are making in this, though, is that everyone's interpretation of God, metaphysics, and truth are exactly that, interpretations. That's it. Everyone is wrong about God.